Hello and welcome back to Intellify. My name is Yash and in this video we'll be discussing Class 12 Politics in India since Independence, chapter number 4, India's External Relations. And now we are going to discuss the sixth question of this chapter. So let's have a look. Question 6 says, write short notes on the following. The first one is India's nuclear policy and the second is consensus in foreign policy matters. Well, first we'll talk about India's nuclear policy. India is a nuclear power and certainly matters globally. On conducting its first nuclear test in 1974 and then again in 1998, India declared itself as a nuclear weapon state. Pandit Nehru was against nuclear weapons and wanted India to play an important role in bringing about elimination of nuclear weapons and thus pleaded for comprehensive nuclear disarmament. However, in looking into the geopolitical compulsions like presence of a nuclear neighbor, that is China, with the history of Chinese aggression, India was compelled to balance the power equation and thus was guided by its own national security interest to go ahead with nuclear tests, declaring them as necessary evils. India is not a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, that is NPT, or to the CTBT, that is Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, owing to its discriminatory nature and yet a nuclear weapon state despite its commitment to the worldwide elimination of nuclear weapons. The Indian nuclear posture has always been rooted in ambiguity and has been a point of discussion. Soon after India declared itself a nuclear weapon state, Pakistan soon followed it and conducted nuclear tests, much of the condemnation of India's international community. Sanctions were imposed on both India and Pakistan, which were later waived off. India has also operationalized its nuclear trade in 2003 with the nuclear submarine INS Arihant likely to be commissioned in 2014. It has successfully tested its first ICBM, the Agni 5, etc. However, India continues to stick to its nuclear policy guided by the principle of no first use and retaliates countries' commitment to global, verifiable, and non-discriminatory nuclear disarmament, leading to a nuclear weapons-free world. Now we come to consensus in foreign policy matters. The conduct of India's foreign policy has been more or less based on consensus. Even though it was Pandit Nehru whose beliefs and ideals guided and shaped his foreign policy principles, though criticized by some for being idealistic in nature, our foreign policy generally involves and evolved after a series of negotiations and deliberations. Indian politics is generally marked by a broad agreement among the parties on national interests, integration, protection of international boundaries, and on questions of national interest. Though there were some differences that existed, for instance, the Swatantrata Party. The Swatantrata Party criticized India's policy of NAM and wanted India to maintain closer ties with the US. Likewise, various parties that have came to power have not made major changes in India's foreign policy principles and have always guided by national security interest. We may give example of the present government sticking to India's stand of no first use in terms of its nuclear policy. My name is Yash. Hope you understood well. Thank you.